Dear Gemini, something in the mirror looks different today, and you cannot quite explain why. Maybe it is the way you scrolled past your own reflection online and felt a flicker of impatience, like you are outgrowing a version of yourself that everyone else still expects to see. That is not vanity. That is Uranus, the planet of sudden change, pressing against your sense of identity, and it wants you to break from the past. But here is the contradiction nobody talks about. The very people you need support from today may be the ones least able to give it. Stick with this, because by the end you will understand why the ground feels unstable and what to actually do about it, the bigger picture. Let us start with what is really moving beneath the surface. From the Western tropical perspective, your ruling planet Mercury is traveling through your third house of communication, the house that governs your voice, your ideas, and how you connect with the people around you. Mercury is forming a supportive trine to Saturn in your 11th house, the house of community, friendships, and future plans. That is a rare kind of harmony. It means a scattered thought or a half-formed plan you mention in passing today has real potential to become something structured and lasting, especially if it happens inside a group setting. At the same time, there is tension. Mars, the planet of action and assertion, sits in your second house of security and money, and it is clashing with Neptune in your 11th house, the same house Saturn occupies. Neptune blurs things. It dissolves boundaries, softens logic, and makes reliable things feel uncertain. So while Mercury and Saturn are building something solid with your community, Mars and Neptune are quietly destabilizing your trust in that same community. You may notice this as a strange contradiction today. One conversation could feel productive and grounding. Another could leave you wondering if the people you count on are actually there for you. In Vedic tradition, the emphasis shifts slightly. The moon's movement into Libra today activates a more emotional, relationship-oriented sensitivity, and Libra's air sign nature amplifies your Gemini need for balance and fairness. Astrologers note this lunar placement can stir a competitive, ambitious undertone you do not usually show. While the Western chart explains the mechanics through Mars and Neptune, the Vedic lens explains the emotional texture through the moon in Libra. Both traditions are describing the same underlying restlessness from different angles, one through planetary aspect, one through lunar mood. That is the real shift happening today. Structure and dissolution arriving together. Love. This is where the day's energy becomes personal. If you are in a relationship, you may notice a subtle gap between what your partner says and what they actually do today. It is not necessarily dishonesty. Remember that Mars-Neptune clash sitting in your house of community? It does not just affect friendships, it blurs emotional clarity everywhere, including in romantic connection. You might ask for reassurance and get something vague in return. Not because your partner does not care, but because the current energy makes concrete answers harder to give. Here is the unanswered question worth sitting with. Is this distance really about you, or is it about a planetary fog that is affecting everyone's ability to communicate clearly right now? Hold that thought. If you are single, the moon's move into Libra may sharpen your radar for fairness and balance in how people treat you. You might find yourself less tolerant of mixed signals today, which is actually useful. There is also a quieter thread running through this. One source close to today's energy suggests some people are only meant to walk beside you for a season, and that letting them go without a dramatic goodbye is not failure, it is maturity. If a connection has felt incomplete for a while, today's climate may finally make that clearer instead of murkier. So here is the resolution to that earlier question. The distance you feel is not a verdict on the relationship's worth. It is Neptune asking you to wait for clarity rather than force it. Mercury trine Saturn later in the day gives you the tools to have a grounded conversation once the fog lifts, so do not make permanent decisions in a temporary haze. Career. What begins as an emotional question about connection actually carries directly into how you show up at work today. That same Mercury-Saturn trine that could deepen a friendship is equally capable of transforming a loose professional idea into a real plan. If there is a group project, a planning thread, or a team discussion happening today, your natural quickness with words becomes an asset rather than noise. You are the one who can take 20 scattered opinions and turn them into one clear next step. But do not let that Neptune fog creep into this arena too. If a colleague seems less reliable than usual, or a group commitment feels shakier than it should, that is the same dissolving energy from your community house at work. The fix is identical to the one in love. Write things down, name a next step, and put the details somewhere people can actually find them later. Structure is your antidote to fog today. You may have noticed that ambition feels sharper too, almost sudden, like you want to prove something. That connects back to the identity shift from earlier, the Uranian pull toward becoming someone new. Career today is not just about tasks. It is a stage where that new version of you gets to test itself. Money. This ambition and this fog both show up again around finances, and here is where they collide most directly. Mars, sitting in your money house, is squaring Neptune, which means a social or romantic plan today could quietly cost more than you planned for. Picture this. You are at dinner with friends. The mood is warm. Someone suggests splitting the bill unevenly or upgrading the evening, and agreeing feels easier than objecting. That is peer pressure, wearing the costume of generosity. Before you agree to anything financial today, check your account first. That is not paranoia. That is just working with the chart you have. The good news arrives later, when Mercury trines Saturn. That same aspect that helps you organize a group plan also makes it far easier to decline gracefully, suggest a cheaper alternative, or simply name your limit without shame. Attraction, friendship, or belonging should never require financing everyone else's comfort. There is also a longer-term financial thread worth mentioning. The picture around income may be gradually improving, particularly for freelance work, chasing payments, or picking up new opportunities. The key word is gradually. Spend wisely even as things loosen up, because Neptune's fog does not fully clear until later in the day. Health. Here is the insight that ties this whole day together. All of this, the identity shift, the community fog, the financial pressure, is really one story about boundaries, and your body is likely to feel it first. Some may notice digestive sensitivity today, so lighter meals and easing off heavy, rich food is a reasonable, gentle choice rather than a restrictive one. But the deeper wellness picture is emotional. That competitive, ambitious undertone stirred by the moon in Libra can tip into frustration if you do not have an outlet. Astrology's guidance here is simple and worth repeating. Let rationality lead over aggression today, especially between 1 and 2:30 in the afternoon, which is marked as a personally favorable window. If tension builds earlier, save the difficult conversation for that window rather than forcing it too soon. If you are drawn to Vedic remedies for grounding this kind of restless energy, some practitioners may recommend Saturn-related practices, such as specific mantras, for individuals whose birth charts support them. This is not universal advice, and gemstone prescriptions in particular require personal chart analysis rather than a blanket recommendation for every Gemini watching today. Home and family. The same fog that touched friendships and finances can drift into family life too, though here it tends to soften rather than sting. You might find a family member or old friend harder to pin down for plans today, or a home conversation that goes in circles without landing anywhere firm. Rather than reading that as rejection, treat it the way you treated the relationship uncertainty earlier. It is atmospheric, not personal. This is also a good day to lean into platonic bonds specifically. Strong friendships are getting quiet astrological support right now, particularly through that Mercury-Saturn trine building steady ground in your community house. If you have been meaning to reconnect with someone, a low-pressure, no-agenda conversation today has real potential to deepen that bond rather than complicate it. Travel and spirit. There is a wandering quality to today's energy that extends beyond conversations and money into something more existential. You may find your mind drifting toward faraway places, a city you have never seen, a trip that exists only as an idea right now. Think of it like a door left slightly open at the end of a hallway. You do not have to walk through it today, but noticing it is worth something. That same Uranian pull toward becoming someone new that opened this story connects directly here. Travel, even hypothetical travel, is often how Gemini processes the need for reinvention. If a destination keeps returning to your thoughts, treat it less as a fantasy and more as a signal about the kind of expansion you are craving. Journaling about that new version of yourself, or simply sitting quietly with the question of who you are becoming, does more good today than forcing any major decision. Lucky signs. If you are looking for small ways to work with today's energy, your favorable window falls between 1 and 2:30 in the afternoon, a good stretch for important conversations or decisions. It is worth avoiding sky blue today, at least according to traditional guidance tied to today's lunar mood. Earthy, grounding tones work better as a counterbalance to all that Neptune fog. Your best energetic match today is anyone who values plain honesty over smooth reassurance, since that is exactly what will cut through the day's haze, today's guidance. So here is where all of it lands. The version of you that felt restless in the mirror this morning is not wrong to want change. But real change today does not come from forcing people to catch up to your new vision all at once. It comes from the quieter work Mercury and Saturn are offering you. Naming the next step, writing it down, checking your resources before you commit them, and letting a little bit of fog stay unresolved rather than demanding instant clarity from people who cannot give it yet. That is the real shift, not a dramatic reinvention, but a steadier one. Trust the structure you build today more than the certainty you are craving, and the version of you waiting on the other side of this will feel less like a stranger and more like someone you have been becoming all along.